Hello, my name is Thane and I like to experiment with all kinds of AI technologies. But my favorite thing is to discover all kinds of styles in Midjourney. This time around, I went over some of the styles I have already prompted and took a look at what the results will be in Midjourney's latest V6 model. So for this video I gathered up some of my favorite styles so far that end with either punk or core. All the example images in this video were generated after the latest update. The update did switch some things around. And one of the main goals was to lessen the nudity that was prone to appear quite often with the initial V6 version. The first version is no longer available to prompt, but I think the second version is stylistically really similar. They didn't even change the version number with this update, and we are still going at version 6.0. As usual for my videos, I tend to write really minimalistic prompts. I have prompted the style first, followed by a subject. This time I chose the words astronaut, gala, harbor and mosaic. The goal in mind was to use subject words that are really different from each other to show how well the style behaves with other subjects, similar to the ones I have chosen for this video. Some do well, some only shine in specific conditions, but I have made my selections because I have found something special that I have liked in the generated images. And sometimes the criteria has just been that it's simply different from the default style. I have used the exact same seed number for all of my tests because it removes one layer of randomization from the prompt. It also comes in handy if you have a desire to generate the same images as I have, so the seed number is 777. It may be possible to generate the same images if you use the same seed number, but there may also be some differences if there are changes to the model, or you use a different speed. I used fast for some of the images until I ran out of fast hours and then I switched to relaxed mode. But let's get to the styles. Angelcore. For this first one I actually wanted to compare the old version of 6.0 as I had the images generated with exactly the same prompt. I feel like if you go from one image grid to another, you can see that there are some similar shapes. The big change in this style seems to be that it went from pretty female angel faces to faceless angel creatures. The style looks epic no matter what, and I do love the lighting in V6 a lot. But unfortunately, the style doesn't translate so well to other subjects. They look kind of more like the default style, but with angel wings. The raw style on its own seems to be giving me some anime vibes. And the raw version comparison gives us a one-winged astronaut with a halo. I love that image and it may be one of the reasons I chose this style for this video. Gala and mosaic also seem to be featuring some angelic figures or people and feathers. And the style on its own generates really epic images. Celestialpunk. For some reason I really like celestial motifs. This one does that, and kind of mixes it with some psychedelic or futuristic cyberpunk themes. Astronaut fits really well with the theme, but strangely, we see the least amount of celestial influences in those images. But I absolutely love the gala and mosaic images. They're colorful, intricate, somewhat weird, and they have stars. Not so impressed with the harbor images, they look nice, but too similar to default style. The raw style has celestial motifs too, but there is more of the actual punk in there, meaning the look that goes along with the punk music style. But it doesn't translate further if you add some additional words in your prompt. The gala images seem to have lost some of their magic, but the rest are pretty much looking like the default style did, just with small variations. Fairycore. I love the glow and sparkle of this style. So it's a fantasy nature theme with wings and butterflies. I also really liked what this did to the astronauts. The first few themes didn't really do much for them, but this time we see the astronauts in the middle of flowers. Gala images look more like a costumed photo shoot. Harbor has some nice fantasy locations, but it still looks kind of the same to me. And mosaic is just pretty and lovely. Raw style is somewhere in between the sparkly nature thematics and costumed photo shoots. But raw style in combination with another subject has some interesting results. Astronauts actually have faces, and a lot of pink and some flowers even. Gala images are something between costumed photo shoots and cosplay outfits. Harbor is actually looking different here, some anime influences. And Mosaic has some weird-looking faces in some of the images, but otherwise really pretty and intricate. Frostpunk. This looks really different. There's obviously ice and snow, but we do see some industrial and sci-fi in here as well. The environment scenery wants to creep through here with Gala images too. Obviously harbors are very snowy and really industrial. Astronauts have snow, and the mosaic images are just astonishing. Raw style on its own looks still really similar to default style. Less sci-fi I think, and maybe more historical industrialism with pointy spires. But the bird's eye view angle is also quite interesting. Snowy themes across the board here with the subject images too. The bird's eye views of the industrial cities are also present on most of the grids. And the style is more realistic looking in some of the astronaut and Gala images. Gorpcore. This style has some weird monsters. They have lots of teeth. And there are many mushrooms. And in combination with other subjects, this brings in more grotesque imagery. The astronauts look good though, they kind of get some ink blots around them. Raw style is 50-50 on generating band portraits and disgusting-looking monsters. Some of you may not like this, but it is really different from default. And in combination there doesn't seem to be anything that grotesque left. I really like the graphics for the astronauts. The rest of the images are not actually that impressive for me. Junglepunk. I like the thematic and the surroundings. The green looks great with the neon pink as well. There has been a lot of neon pink going around in V6. The jungle theme is nicely showing up in all the subject images as well. I especially like the astronauts in the jungle. And the harbors look amazing as well this time around. Raw style has a 50-50 mixture of indigenous jungle people and jungle-themed punk bands. Not sure what's going on with the face of the guy that's on the left in the top left image. The images with subjects look okay with raw style. I like the astronauts the most, but the rest of them are kind of mediocre to me. Knightcore. I liked the original style images I created with this style more than what came out after the new update. But the new ones do look nice and atmospheric. I get a Lord of the Rings feel from the top left image, Game of Thrones feel from the top right, and Star Wars from the lower right image. This style doesn't really translate to astronauts or harbors that well. But I like the Gala and mosaic images. There's all kinds of knights here, but I think they are mostly fantasy knights than historical knights. The raw style looks way more like I would picture some historical knights. These are okay and nice, but not on the level as they used to be. The raw style doesn't really impact astronauts or harbors. But Gala and mosaic look really awesome to me. We get some video game or fantasy knights here, based on the elaborate helmets. Mythpunk. This seems to do a mix of sci-fi and mythology, which is quite interesting. And there is an alien cyclops here as well. Astronauts and harbors don't seem to be really influenced with this style. But I like the elaborate costumes of the Gala images, and mosaic seems to have some cool stuff there as well. Interestingly, the raw style seems to be getting some comic characteristics. The mythology part is not as strong, but we get some superhero-looking characters. But the comic style doesn't really come across when you combine it with other words. Only the astronauts seem to have a style change. There are hints of the Mythpunk style otherwise here and there, but not that strongly. I guess it's best on its own. Nanopunk. This one has a lot of sci-fi influences. Tiny mechanical things enlarged to look like huge. I really like the astronaut with the pink background. But otherwise only the harbor images kind of portray the sci-fi look. Gala too, but not consistently. Mosaic does its own thing. It's intricate, but it's hard to tell what the Nanopunk style is in those images. Raw style on its own seems to mostly generate some zoomed-in images of microscopic things. Just what nanotechnology is when I try to imagine what it could look like. But it doesn't translate really to the subjects though. We get some images that do look different somewhat from the default, but nothing that would obviously call out to me as Nanopunk. Oceanpunk. This one does underwater cities. It's kind of strange that there seems to be another water surface under the water. But at least the Oceanpunk is represented in most of the images with a subject. The astronauts are underwater, Gala too partly, with fish and coral-inspired costumes. Harbors are underwater aquatic structures, and Mosaic has all kinds of sea creatures in the mix there. Raw style doesn't seem to differ that much from the default style. Same kind of buildings and seemingly another water level underwater. But stylistically both default and raw are not photographic, probably because all the references that do exist are not real photographs and most likely CGI, video game graphics or illustrations. And the images with subjects do still have some water or sea creature themes to them. Rainbowpunk. Now this one is inherently totally different from all the others we have seen so far. It's more nature-related than anything else, so we get lots of nature and all the colors of the rainbow basically. I really like the effect on the images. And when you add subject to the image, you will get really colorful images. All the subjects got so much more color to them. And for the first time in this video, I really like some of the harbor images. So far they have been kind of unimpressive. But it's the case that even if some of my word selections is kind of bad, I do want to stick to it, because otherwise I would never get any videos out if I start to choose the best words to combine the styles with. And less nature as well. Raw style seems to have a lot more straight lines to it. Just colorful light mostly, or light shining on colorful surfaces. The subject images do still have lots of color to them. And this time I like the astronaut images the most. Mosaic is nice too. But Gala and Harbor images are not that impressive to me for some reason. WhisperingVortexCore. The last one is actually a made-up style that turned out pretty nicely. I tried out some strange combinations, and this looked the best out of them. We get some nature, ripples, vortexes, and strange shapes. And the combination with the subject produces some really nice images. I especially like the Gala images. They are ornate and sparkly and strange. Especially the top two images that actually have anime characters in the images. The anime style doesn't come through with most of the subjects though. Only the Gala images have two lower images that are in that style. Otherwise, the images look different from the default, but not necessarily in the style one would expect. Alright, those were the 12 punk or core styles that I have recently tried out and liked. My observations are that the styles in V6 are not always very consistent when applied to different kinds of subjects. And although core and punk styles do seem to produce some nice-looking images mostly accidentally, it seems that it's pretty difficult to apply them to all images. The style itself tends to not be a certain style, just what's depicted in the images. Meaning that we can sometimes get a variety of different styles in just one image grid. Let me know in the comments below if you have tried any of these styles before, and if you like what they do now. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel if you like this kind of content. Thank you so much for watching, and let's continue prompting.